Nigeria and around the world to Global TV's News Prime, live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I am Judith Peters. On the news, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the appointment of 3 new executive commissioners to serve in the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, and the deployment of 1 current executive commissioner pending their confirmation by the Nigeria Senate. A statement by the presidency says Tinubu approved the reshuffling and replacement based on his deeply informed assessment of all factors concerning the sector, with a view to establishing a regulatory framework and culture that comprehensively desensitizes errant behavior and incentivizes diligence and rules-based business practice across the industry. As well, Tinubu assures investors from Saudi of world's highest returns in Nigeria at the Saudi African Summit in Riyadh. Saudi Arabia President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has assured potential investors that their investments are safe in Nigeria. Speaking at the Saudi African Summit in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on Friday, President Bola Tinubu says Nigeria is ready for business while assuring investors of some of the world's highest returns on investment. The president said Nigeria is desirous of enhancing collaboration with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on combating terrorist organizations such as Boko Haram, ISWAP, and other violent extremist groups which have been terrorizing the Lake Chad and Sahel region. Nigeria and Saudi Arabia have always enjoyed a special relationship at both the bilateral and multilateral levels. Within the past 6 decades, our bilateral cooperation, which was initially heart-centric, has witnessed devastation to cover a number of areas of common interest. And it's delightfulness to note the presence in this great kingdom of a large number of our compatriots and professionals, including high-skilled medical practitioners and professional football players. As well, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu mourns Nigeria's first female Major General Aderonke Kala, who passed away at 84. Following the passing of Major General Aderonke Kala, retired President of Nigeria Bola Tinubu extend his condolences to the Kala family, the Nigeria Army, and the Nigerian medical community. He said she was a pioneer in her field and embodied the courage, professionalism, capacity, and resilience of the Nigerian women. Kale, aged 84, was well known for being the first female commander of the Nigeria Army Medical Corps and the first female Major General in the history of Nigeria Army. In 1997, she announced a retirement from the Nigeria Army. According to a statement signed by Chief Anjari Ngalale, Special Advisor to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, describing Major General Kale as a pace-setter and her death as a painful loss to Nigeria. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has appointed Rinsola Abiola as a Senior Special Assistant on Citizenship and Leadership. In this role, the President believes she will work closely with the leadership of the Ministry of Youth. Abiola is a public relations professional and youth and gender advocate. She is also a founder member of the party's Young Women's Movement and was appointed as one of 3 youth representatives to the party's Board of Trustees in 2015. Meanwhile, the federal government says it will start charging owners of completed unoccupied houses triple ground rent instead of the single rent normally charged from 3 months after completion. The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Dagiwa, said this in an interview with newsmen during his continuation to site visit of housing projects constructed by the government and its agencies on Friday in Abuja. Dagiwa affirmed that the issue of completed unoccupied properties was prevalent in the FCT in some states of the Federation, while many citizens were in their need for accommodation. In its effort to stem the tide of revenue loss in the solid mineral sector, the federal government has trained a total of 120 youth and women in Plateau State on artisanal and small-scale mining. The week-long capacity building, which was done through the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission in partnership with the United Nations Development Programme, ended in Jos on Friday. The chairman of RMAFC, Research and Development Committee, Ajasin Tokumbo, decried the low contribution of the solid mineral sector to Nigerians' revenue earners, blaming it on the non-formalization of the activities of many sectors in the country. Tokumbo noted that over the years, the Commission saddled with the constitutional responsibility to monitor accruals into and disbursement of revenue from the Federation account, and observed that revenue accruals into the account from the solid mineral sector had been abysmally low compared to that of hydrocarbon. As well, the Lagos State government has concluded plans to short and divert traffic on Marine Bridge, Apapa area of the state for repair works from Friday, 10th November to Thursday, 21st December 2023. Commissioner for Transportation Oluwaseun Osiyemi announced the planned closure for rehabilitation works. He noted that in continuation of the repair works by the Federal Ministry of Works on the Marine Bridge, traffic will be diverted on the bridge from Friday, 10th November to Thursday, 21st December 2023, urging motorists to make use of Marine Bridge Access Road to Area B and make a U-turn at Point Junction Road towards Marine Bridge to continue the journeys. It, however, showed that traffic personnel from the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, LASMA, would be deployed to manage traffic flow and minimize inconveniences. And as part of efforts to improve the welfare of its personnel, the Chief of Army Staff, COAS, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, has performed groundbreaking foundation laying for the construction of Abdul Samad Rabiu Corporal and below quarters at the Muhammadu Buhari Cantonment, Giri, Abuja. Speaking at the ceremony, the Army Chief said the project will immensely contribute to addressing the huge infrastructure deficit the Nigerian Army is currently facing in Abuja. Kikelomo Okere completes the rest of the story.
The Army Chief says Nigerian Army under his leadership will continue to give utmost priority to the welfare of his personnel as crystallized in the third term of his command philosophy, which is to provide sound administration and support to the home front of personnel as major pillar. He called on other corporate organizations to emulate ASR Africa and support the government in meeting some of the essential needs of the security agencies.
By the time these facilities will be completed and handed over to the Nigerian Army, it will go a long way in addressing the problem of accommodation that confronts our personnel, especially here in Abuja. We have a large contingent of Nigerian Army personnel that work and reside in Abuja, and provision of accommodation is a must for these personnel.
In his address, the chairman, BOA Group, Abdul Samad Rabiu, stated that through the security sector support grant, the firm was able to support the armed forces and other security agencies in the country, noting that the management is pleased with the Nigerian Army for utilizing the grant allocated for infrastructure development. Rabiu, who was represented by the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer, ASR Africa, Ubo Udo, stressed that the contribution of the ASR Africa is an indication of its commitment to development solution in Nigeria and in Africa in general.
Okay, so this is part of the security sector support grants from Alhaji Abdul Samad Rabiu. We've already provided grants ranging from 500 million naira to 2 billion naira for 10 security agencies and the armed forces. This is part of our program, and we're going to implement these ones first and then see what happens going forward. You work for the Army, eh? So the allocations were done based on, of course, the strengths. The Army, Air Force, and Navy got 2 billion each. We understand that the Army, of course, has, of course, a lot more men. But we're open to individual proposals as well.
Highlight of the ceremony were the foundation laying for the construction of 120 units of corporal and below quarters by the Chief of Army Staff and presentation of souvenir. Kikelomo Okere, Global Television News.
President of Nigeria Labour Congress NLC Joe Ajero on Friday said that he was arrested in Owerri, Imo State capital, by the police and was handed over to waiting thugs that got him thoroughly beaten. Briefing journalists in Abuja, the NLC president said the NLC wrote to all the security agencies before they went to the state for the protest on November 1st. According to him, workers who arrived at the venue of the protest on that day at about 7 a.m. were allegedly beaten up by thugs with their phones seized. The NLC president, however, denied the allegation by the Imo State government that he is a card-carrying member of the Imo Labour Party. As well, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has deployed its operatives on election monitoring operations in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo State. The Commission's head of media and publicity, Dele Oyewale, in a statement said the operation were aimed at checking electoral fraud and associated crimes. Oyewale stated that in the Commission's drive to checkmate electoral fraud and associated financial crimes, the anti-graft agency has deployed its officers to Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo State, where governorship elections are holding on Saturday, November 11, 2023. Yaga African has called on the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to ensure proper coordination of deployment of materials and personnel of the cycle governorship election in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo State. In a statement jointly signed by Board Chairman, Executive Director Yaga Africa, and read by Ezenwa Nwago to journalists in Abuja, the organization charged the Commission to ensure that materials and personnel get to these places promptly. Our correspondent, Subaru Usman, was there for Global TV.
Yaga urged INEC to resist attempts to sabotage information technology logistics preparation by collaborating with security agencies to arrest and prosecute defaulting transport companies.
Yaga Africa projects low voter turnout in the respective states owing to the spate of pre-election violence, a deep sense of citizens' distrust, apparent fear of intimidation, voter fatigue, and loss of faith in elections as a means to achieving democratic leadership. Yaga Africa advocates for 11th hour confidence building voter education to improve voter turnout. Deployment of election materials. Yaga Africa notes INEC's deployment of sensitive and non-sensitive election materials to the local government areas in the 3 states. While this projects a positive outlook, Yaga Africa calls on INEC to ensure proper coordination and communication with the transport companies unions, providing logistics support to ensure early deployment of materials and personnel to polling units on election day. The Commission should resist attempts to sabotage its logistic preparations by collaborating with security agencies to arrest and prosecute any defaulting transport companies. This will address the recurring late commencement of polls.
Yaga Africa therefore called on the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security to ensure that security personnel deployed for the election comply with the Code of Conduct on Election Security.
Yaga Africa calls on political parties, candidates, and their supporters to commit to peaceful campaigns ahead of the elections, and on election day to refrain from vote buying and compromising the secrecy of the ballot. Yaga Africa urges voters to resist efforts to purchase their votes, turn out in their numbers, and vote according to their preferences on Saturday, November 11th. Yaga Africa is watching the vote observation for the 2023 off-cycle governorship elections. We'll just share details of our deployment plan for tomorrow. For the November 11 governorship election, Yaga Africa is deploying a comprehensive and systematic observation of the elections, which involves deploying the process and results verification for transparency, PRVT, formerly called PVT, methodology, to observe the governorship elections in Imo and Kogi states. Yaga Africa would also...
Voters were therefore urged to resist efforts to purchase their vote and cast their ballot in line with their preferences come November 11th. Swabra Usman, Global Television News, Abuja.
You're watching Global TV News Prime, coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We are on StarTimes channel 276. Kindly follow us across our social media platform using the Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your TV screen. And when the News Prime returns, federal government to spend 7.76 trillion naira on salaries as well as other items. The news continues shortly with details of these and other stories right after the short break. Please don't go away. Welcome back, and if you're just joining us, this is Global Television bringing you a live broadcast of the News Prime from the Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Let's take a look at some foreign news where prosecutors in Burundi on Thursday called for sack Prime Minister Alain Guillaume Bunyoni to be sentenced to life in prison as he has been on trial since September before the Supreme Court. Sitting in section at the prison in the political capital, Gitega, where he is being detained, Bunyoni was Prime Minister from mid-2020 until September 2022, when he was fired days after President Evariste Ndayishimiye warned of a coup plot against him. He is accused of threatening the lives of the head of state, undermining national security, attempting to topple government institutions, destabilizing the economy, and illegal enrichment, among other charges. Appearing at the dock with his co-confident defendants, he pleaded not guilty to all charges and said he should be acquitted because of a lack of evidence against him. The presiding judge said a verdict would be issued within 30 days. Meanwhile, the U.S. arm of China's largest bank said Thursday that it was hit by a ransomware attack, forcing clients to reroute trades and disrupting the U.S. Treasury market. State-owned ICBC is the biggest of China's big four banks and the world's largest lender by assets, according to S&P Global. ICBC Financial Services, which is headquarters in New York, said in a statement that the attack, which happened on Wednesday, had been reported to law enforcement. ICBC Financial Services added that it was in the process of investigating the incident and trying to recover from the cyber attack, where successfully declared U.S. Treasury trades executed Wednesday and repurchase agreement financial trades done on Thursday, it said in the statement. A ransomware attack is a type of malicious software that encrypts a user's files or system, rendering them inaccessible. The system of ICBC's head office in Beijing and other domestic and overseas units were not affected by this incident, nor was the ICBC New York branch, the statement said. On Friday, China's foreign ministry said the bank was paying close attention to the incident. Citizens of climate-threatened Tuvalu will have the right to live in Australia under a landmark park unveiled Friday. It is an offer of refuge as their Pacific homeland is lost beneath the sea. Prime Minister Ukazao Natano and Anthony Albanese inked a treaty to help Tuvalu's 11,000 residents tackle climate change and take coast sanctuary should the world's fears materialize. Tuvalu is among the world's most vulnerable nations due to rising sea levels. 2 of Tuvalu's 9 coral islands have already largely disappeared under the waves, and climate scientists fear the entire archipelago will be uninhabited within the next 80 years. As well, toxic smoke in eastern Pakistan has made thousands of people sick, forcing authorities to shut some cities for the rest of the week. Smog in the country's second largest city, Lahore, has risen to dangerous levels. The Punjab provincial government has ordered the schools, offices, malls and parks in 3 cities, including Lahore, be closed until Sunday over the past few days. Lahore's air quality index, which measures the level of fine particulate matter in the air, has hovered around the 400 mark. AQI levels at 100 are generally thought of as satisfactory Lahore borders. The Indian city of Amritsar, North Indian, is also suffering from the impact of dosing smog. Air pollution in the Indian capital Delhi has risen to alarming levels on Tuesday. The air quality index of the Indian capital hit 300 on 7th November, nearly reaching the hazardous level of 301 to 500. Time to talk some business. The federal government recently agreed wage with the organized labor salaries to federal workers and other non-debt recurrent costs are expected to go up 7.76 trillion naira in 2023. This is based on data from the initial 2023 budget and recently signed 2023 supplementary budget. The country's central government recently approved 2.18 trillion naira budget to augment new expenses, including an agreed wage reward for workers due to the removal of fuel subsidy. When the budget was announced, the Ministry of Budget and Economy Planning, Abubakar Bagadu, noted that 605 billion naira has been earmarked for national defense, while 210 billion naira will cover the payment of wage awards. According to appropriation details from the Budget Office, 1.1 trillion naira of the total budget is for recruitment expenditure, with 1.17 trillion naira pegged for capital expenditure. The supplementary budget is set to increase the total non-debt recruitment expenditure of the federal government to 7.76 trillion naira and capital expenditure to 4.53 trillion naira. Despite recent moves by the Central Bank of Nigeria to strengthen the foreign exchange market, the Naira closed trading on the investor and export to forex window on Thursday at 996.75 per dollar. This is a 13.95% decline from the 874.71 per dollar. Its closed trading on Wednesday. So far, the Naira has lost 27.75% of its value since opening the week on 780.23 per dollar, according to details on FMDQ OTC Security Exchange. Since firming up against the dollar last week after news that the Apish Bank was clearing some of its backlog broke, the Naira has been on a steady decline in both the official and parallel markets. Meanwhile, Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas Limited, NLNG, has pointed to versatile scarcity, fluctuations and foreign exchange rates and soaring oil prices as the primary causes for the recent surge in cooking gas prices. Market survey carried out revealed that as of the beginning of the month, the price of 20 metric tons of cooking gas at the terminal was 10 million naira. However, as of October 20th, the price had risen to 14 million naira per 20 metric tons. In an official statement released on Wednesday, NLNG explained how these factors, in conjunction with domestic microeconomic development and global influences, have led to a constriction in the supply of liquefied petroleum gas within the domestic market. And let's turn to sports, where according to Serie A champion Napoli, Nigeria international Victor Osimhen has continued his recovery to full fitness with the club as they get ready for their league games against Empoli on Sunday. While his availability for Sunday's game remains very uncertain, Napoli on their official website on Thursday wrote that Osimhen has resumed personal training away from the team. The Nigeria will return to Italy on Wednesday, having spent almost 2 weeks in Nigeria to attend to personal matters, has been sidelined since October 13th after picking up a hamstring injury he suffered while on duty for Nigeria during an international friendly against Saudi Arabia. His last game for Napoli was on October 8th when he scored a 3-1 win for Fiorentina. Nigeria striker Terry Murphy will be bidding to score his 70th career league goal when he starts for Nice India away League One fixture at Montpellier at the Stade de la Maso on today. The Nigeria, who is on a 6-game goal drought, has scored for Nice in their away win over Paris Saint-Germain at the Paris on September 15th. Murphy has scored a total of 69 league goals playing in top-league leagues in France, Belgium and Lithuania. The Nigeria international has so far scored 43 goals in 114 League 1 appearances playing for Laurent and Nice, while he scored only 5 league goals in 11 games for KV Kortrijk in Belgium. As well, Super Eagles head coach Osei Sentez-Pereiro has invited goalkeeper Maduka Okoye, defenders Kenneth Omeru and Olaoluwa Aina, midfielders Alex Iwobi and Frank Onyeka, and forwards Moses Simon, Kelechi Iheanacho, Taiwo Awoniyi and Leverkusen Stearman Victor Boniface among a list of 23 players for the month's 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying matches against Lesotho and Zimbabwe. The list unveiled Thursday night also has goalkeepers Francis Uzoho and Olorunleke Ojo, defenders Oluwa Shemilogo Ajayi and Bright Osayi Samuel, midfielder Raphael Oyedika, and forwards Ademola Lookman and Terry Murphy. Defender Jamil Collins makes a return after a long layoff due to injury, and there is a first ever call for Bayer Leverkusen of German forward Nathan Teller. Spain-based striker Sadiq Umar also makes a return after a long absence. And for more updates on sports, let's now join Sharon Ajay.
The list of 23 Super Eagles players for this month's 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying matches against Lesotho and Zimbabwe has been unveiled. Head coach Jose Peseiro has invited goalkeeper Maduka Okoye, defenders Kenneth Omeru and Olaoluwa Aina, midfielders Alex Iwobi and Frank Onyeka, and forwards Moses Simon, Kelechi Iheanacho and Taiwo Awoniyi for the 2 games. There are also goalkeepers Francis Uzoho and Olorunleke Ojo, defenders Olorunleke Ajayi and Bright Osayi Samuel, midfielder Raphael Onyedika, and forwards Ademola Lookman, Victor Boniface and Terry Murphy. And now to tennis. Quadri Aruna has been listed as the 15th player to qualify for the season-ending World Table Tennis. Quadri Aruna has been listed as the 15th player to qualify for the season-ending World Table Tennis Finals for the top 16 players in the world. The Nigerian will be making his 3rd appearance at the WTT Finals after he was confirmed yesterday as the latest qualifier among the top 16 that are expected to compete at the event taking place in Doha, Qatar. Aruna remains the only African player to have featured in the WTT Finals, having competed at the maiden edition in Singapore as well as the 2022 edition in China. Sharon Ajay reporting for Global TV News.
And that's it on Global TV News Prime, coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're in StarTimes, channel 276. Kindly follow us across our social media platform using a Global TV NG. Another hand is now showing on your TV screen. On behalf of the production team, I am Judith Peters. Thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you again.